Hello, this is Rock Paper Shotgun and you are watching Far Cry New Dawn. More specifically, you are watching a gang of vicious bandits picking a fight with Horatio. He's my attack boar and the most vicious pork product since the pepper army animal. Look at this guy go! Who needs a 12 bore shotgun when you've got a 1 bore army? I want to talk about 7 features in my recent hands-on with Far Cry New Dawn that made me think this is the game Far Cry 5 should have been. And Horatio is the perfect place to start, because if you can't love a battle pig, can you truly love anything? In all honesty, he's not massively different to teaming up with Far Cry 5's Cheeseburger the bear, although these specialist sidekicks do behave slightly differently in New Dawn. They now learn new abilities by killing a certain number of enemies. Horatio starts with a shield break, but can learn to self-revive and enter an enraged state called porcine fury. Think God of War's Kratos meets Babe. Horatio also takes much longer to respawn when he's sent to Piggy Heaven, though you can speed up his recovery, and any specialists, by collecting the right blend of herbs. Normally, I find the flower picking deeply tedious in Far Cry, but if it means getting this hairy Terminator back in action, I'm fully on board. Crucially, Horatio just feels like a better fit for the world Ubisoft have built. Far Cry New Dawn is set 17 years after Far Cry 5, in what remains of a world ravaged by nukes. It's a world where chaos reigns, a place where a man could conceivably team up with a pig to fight a gang of bandits called the Highwaymen. If, like me, you found Far Cry 5 a little tonally jarring, it is after all a game where you have an attack bear and everyone dies in a nuclear blast, you'll find New Dawn to be a lot more consistent. Even with a battle boar to distract you, it's hard to get away from the fact that Ubisoft are serving up a second helping of Hope County. It's a different take on the map, sure, with mutant wildlife and post-nuke lights in the sky, but it's still a place I spent tens of hours exhausting in 2018. Their solution to the problem is a big potato. Sadly, that's not a giant mutant spud you have to fight, but the name of a helicopter that flies you to new locations. Technically, it's called Le Gros Patate, and you can thank Canadian pilot Roger Cadere for that one.
Now you, me, la grosse patate, we're gonna get back to doing what we do best. Pissing off highwaymen and stealing their resources.
Refuel Caderet's helicopter and he'll take you on expeditions. These are standalone maps where the aim is to get in, secure a package and escape to the extraction point. This is easier said than done. For starters, the maps are huge. This is the HMS Makubri, a warship that can be infiltrated by quad bike or with some ninja escapades involving zip lines. Secondly, the package has a GPS transmitter, so no matter how stealthily you get to the goods, you are going to draw the attention of every outlaw going once you've grabbed them. Perhaps I was foolish to only bring a saw launcher, but I found this to be a stiff challenge, and quite unlike the older Far Cries. These games have trained you to be very good at attacking enemy territory, but this fight is much more about holding back impossible numbers. It leads to many deaths and desperate measures. Several days after playing New Dawn, I am still asking myself why exactly I chose to drive a car into the ocean. Stupid, so stupid. When I finally got to the beach and hid behind a gun turret, I began to get the sense that this was really intended for co-op play. Everything in Far Cry New Dawn can be tackled alone, but the number of vehicles to steal and the size of the level just gave the feeling that this would be much more fun with a friend. Once you complete an expedition, you unlock progressively harder versions of that level with bigger loot rewards. And it's really great to see the team thinking about meaningful longevity, something I'll get back to in a second. You may have also heard the game's creators talking about New Dawn as a light RPG, not to be confused with the car-exploding weapon of the same name. If this sets off alarm bells that Far Cry is about to become a Fallout-esque slog, don't worry. What it really refers to is a new sense of difficulty progression. Traditionally, Far Cry has relied on tougher enemy types and sheer numbers to turn up the heat. In New Dawn, enemies still wear various levels of bulletproof gear, but also fit into difficulty ranks, 1 to 3, and the really scary ones with a little crown above their heads. I don't have much footage of that last category, because in Act 1 of the game you're so weak, they can basically kill you by blinking. On the flip side, the weapons also fit into the same rankings, giving you an indicator of whether you are sufficiently armed. While it's certainly possible to make a dent on a higher level enemy with a low rated gun, you'll quickly get outnumbered. Holding an underpowered weapon is where the game feels most like an RPG, as you're chipping away at a massive health bar, even if you're landing perfect headshots. Whenever I met a bullet sponge like this, I felt like I was playing the freaky love child of Far Cry and The Division. Of course, The Division is far too much of a grumpy chops to give you this wonderful saw launcher. Generally, I'm on board with anything that gives a bit more shape to the world. You know, here are areas you'll get murdered, and these are places you can easily do the murdering. It's good to have something to aspire to. It also means the game hopefully avoids the pitfalls of Far Cry 5, where difficulty basically meant aerial assaults and jeeps smashing you off the road every 2 minutes. I'm hoping the new system means fights on the ground can maintain a bit of bite through to the finish. They certainly didn't in Far Cry 5. The few times the system did chafe for me was when I took a stealthier approach. There's nothing more irritating than lining up a perfect shot, planting a bullet between someone's eyes, only to see half their health bar remain, and a now very angry soldier standing under it. I had the same problem when Assassin's Creed introduced weapon levels, and it became a gamble whether the hidden blade would end a guard's life or just tickle their lungs a bit. Call me old-fashioned, but I come from a time where a headshot was a headshot. High-ranking guns do not grow on trees. Mother Nature may be drunk on radiation in New Dawn, but her mutations aren't that freaky. No, for new weapons you need to grow your home base, another new addition to the formula. Right from the off you're giving sanctuary and prosperity. The good news is the community of survivors has built a sturdy wall and is well on the way to self-sufficiency. Bad news is, there is a guy with a guitar. No man, I do not want to hear f***ing Wonderwall. Pumping materials into Prosperity's facilities unlocks crafting, the garage lets you craft new vehicles, the healing gardening improves medikit efficiency, and the explosive lab lets you build all things that go boom. It's hardly rocket science. Well, technically the explosives lab is. But moving on, it's a skill tree designed as a living town, with all the highest level buildings locked off behind a general level tied to mission progress and side objectives. But it does give your mission a nice clear purpose compared to earlier Far Cry games. This is a series that's largely about people dumped in heinous situations who just keep shooting until they get out the other end. Don't get me wrong, shooting is still on the menu. In fact, it's the key ingredient of your starter, mains and dessert. But think of town building as the napkin that you'll use to wipe your mouth between courses. Of course, the major downside to all this is that you sadly can't build a Thunderdome to make the guitar man fight for his life. 2 hipsters enter, ideally no hipsters leave. Keep that one for the sequel, eh? The quickest way to collect building materials is to squeeze surrounding territories. My favourite idea in New Dawn, sorry Horatio, is the option to sacrifice any outpost you've claimed for a hit of resources. Outposts, for those unfamiliar with Far Cry, are enemy strongholds. You're free to attack them from any angle, and when you kill the last resident, you get a little blast of slow motion and access to things like fast travel and crafting benches. Scavenge the outpost, however, and those bonuses are off the table until you reclaim it. But the clever bit is that every time you strip an outpost, it escalates the difficulty of reclaiming it. A level 1 outpost becomes a level 2 outpost, and so on. The impact is instantly felt. Weapons that rinsed a level 1 outpost in seconds might only stagger guards of the level 2, and the arrival of heavily armoured brutes sees entire clips vanish without a single body to show for it. By playing in co-op, we are able to brute force 2 escalations with low level weapons, but once we hit the 3rd level, we may as well been shooting ourselves in the head for all the good we did. It's a neat fix for one of Far Cry 5's biggest problems, that the game gets easier as you play through it. A combination of unlocking better weapons and thinning out enemy forces in a region means it's too easy to get ahead of the difficulty curve. In the past, you have been able to activate Outpost Master that returns all claimed territory to enemy hands, but it doesn't up the threat in the way New Dawn does. As with the expeditions, there's a formidable challenge waiting for you, a proper endgame to actually put your ludicrous arsenal to the test, which is kind of a Far Cry first. Speaking of recycling resources, while reusing Hope County does feel like a bit of a cash grab by Ubisoft, it does have a side effect of creating an instant bond with the world. We're all familiar with post-apocalyptic cliches, houses half sank in sand or reclaimed by nature. But if you've visited Hope County before, there's a lot of nice moments where it dawns on you exactly where you're standing in relation to the previous game. Ubisoft plays up to nostalgia with quests to match photographs of the old world to the shabby remains. And there are living echoes too. A suspiciously impressive number of characters manage to avoid the end of the world, meaning you'll meet them or their relatives. Early on in the game, you team up with Nick Rye's daughter, last seen being born at the end of Far Cry 5, and Nick himself is lurking somewhere on the map. I also met up with Grace Armstrong. Far Cry 5's superstar sniper is now blind, which is a touch on the nose as far as writing goes.
Name's Grace, and if I wasn't blind as fuck, I'd be fighting right beside you. I might have lost a step or two, but I'm still putting my hands to good use.
I'll admit I'm a bit of a sucker for time jumps in TV and film. Show me Robert De Niro suddenly aging at the start of Once Upon a Time in America, and I'll bawl like a baby every time. But it's not a trick many games get to pull. Okay, so I'm not saying I have the same affection for Grace Armstrong as Robert De Niro, although De Niro never gave me a saw launcher, which kind of works against him. But I do like a world with a sense of history, and here I've actually lived it. I think the main reason I'm enjoying my time in New Dawn more than Far Cry 5 is that a post-apocalyptic setting is such a natural fit for Far Cry's style of open-world chaos. With society crumbling, it makes way more sense to have swarms of bandits descend on you during your travels, or to find random strangers struggling to get by in the world. Far Cry 5 had to jump through some pretty shonky hoops to explain why this vast county could be thrust into out-and-out civil war without attracting out-of-state police or the army to come break it up. Likewise, when you found people playing guitars around a campfire, you'd wondered what the hell they were up to as a religious cult murdered people just around the corner. I, for one, find ritual sacrifice really puts me off my s'mores. A world with no police or army is a world where Far Cry's random encounters make perfect sense. Out in this lawless wasteland, you expect to bump into desperate strangers trying to sell their wares or being hounded by highwaymen. It's basically Cormac McCarthy's The Road, but with funnier ragdoll physics. The Far Cry series has long struggled to balance the idea of taking a holiday in a place and having to deal with something horrible on the horizon. New Dawn flips it. The horrible thing has already happened. Everyone is dead. So let the holiday begin. But we'll have to wait a little bit to take that holiday. Not long though, as Far Cry New Dawn arrives on February the 15th. The capture in this video was taken on PS4 Pro, but we'll obviously be playing the PC version on the channel. I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour of what to expect in New Dawn. I have a love-hate relationship with Far Cry 5, in that I loved messing around in that gorgeous landscape, but I hated just about everyone I met, friend or foe. But most of them seem to have been disintegrated by a nuke, so it fills me with some hope. If you have any questions about what we played, do let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to conjure some answers. It'd be great if you could do the whole like and subscribe thing. If not for me, do it for Horatio. And we'll hopefully see you soon. Bye for now.